Hi, I'm Cindy Batchelor, Executive General Manager of NAB Business, and I have Alan Oster, our Chief Economist, with me today to talk about March's Business Monthly Survey. Welcome, Alan.
Thank you, Cindy.
So tell us how the economy is tracking.
What it's basically saying is the economy is doing really well, particularly in the service sector. We're seeing some signs that the mining sector is now starting to improve. Commodity prices really strong. Employment numbers are quite strong. However, these numbers do bounce around from month to month, and we do think this time that the far north Queensland cyclone Debbie has affected the sample and has meant that Queensland is really being represented by southeast Queensland, which is really strong, and northern Queensland that's not strong has dropped out of the sample. So fundamentally the economy is fine, but it's not as good as what the business conditions are saying in the month.
Okay, so we should expect to see then an adjustment for that next month as the whole of Queensland comes back online in terms of
I think that's
service.
basically right. But you know, even if we make that adjustment, we'd still say business out there is really doing pretty well.
Okay, so let's talk a bit more about servicing. Tell me a bit more about what's happening
So what
there.
we've got is we've got health, we've got education, sectors that we know are doing very well. They're the strongest part of the labour market. There's the strongest part of investment. And also I think you sort of get a whiplash effect that higher house prices make people feel wealthier, and then they tend to spend more in the service area. The other thing we're seeing in the survey is a significant slowdown that's still continuing in discretionary retail. So whilst the consumer will whinge about utility prices, go and see the doctor if they have to, they're probably not going to go down and buy 3 or 4 TVs. It's really discretion versus I need to have this.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're making choices within for the things that matter most to them.
Yes.
Fantastic. What about other sectors? You talk a little bit about mining. What's happening there?
Mining is improving a lot. The other sector that's doing fairly well, which you think is good, is wholesale. Wholesale, normally you move boxes around, and so if that's sort of happening, that's sort of ongoing strength. I think there are some issues associated with some of the other sectors. Manufacturing is okay, but not great. And we're also seeing a big difference by region. So we've talked about far north Queensland and etc., but also we know Northern Territory, Western Australia really poor. Anything on the west coast of Tasmania is not great, and Perth is not good.
Okay, but your East Coast
The
states
East
are
Coast,
much stronger?
very strong, particularly if you sort of drew the line at, say, the Sunshine Coast down, so that's Gold Coast, Brisbane, etc., really strong. Far north Queensland's a little bit like Perth.
Absolutely, yeah. And I certainly see that within the business as well. So our stronger states performing well, demand is there, businesses are, I suppose, demonstrating those conditions are turning into confidence, but it's not across the board.
It's not across the board, and also one of the things that's in the survey is whilst the sort of conditions how did you go was really strong, confidence sort of edged back a little bit. So it should be a bit higher than that. You still do have the regional differences, but I think it could well be that people worry about what we call geopolitical risks. If you like Trump, what's going to get through.
Bigger issues globally.
Bigger issues. So yeah, things are okay, but I'm not going to crack out the champagne just yet.
And what about long-term averages, Alan? How are we going
In
vis-a-vis?
long-term averages, confidence, we're basically at the long-run average. Conditions, the long-run average is about +5 and we're +15, so it's like non-mining demand 4%. So it's quite strong.
So our customers should have every reason to be confident and to act, but we're not yet seeing that confidence translate into action and investment.
That's right. In the survey, we're seeing a little signs that business investments should be picking up, but again, it's in the service sector. We're seeing some growth in forward orders, and the survey is also saying that the labour market is actually better than what the statistician's saying. But that doesn't mean, of course, that what the statistician publishes in a few days' time will be better. But fundamentally, our survey would be consistent with growth of employment of about 20,000 jobs a month, and the statistician publishing about 10.
Great. And again, we know, stronger employment will actually create more opportunity, jobs, activity. So we want that to continue.
Yeah, and so it's really a good news story, but what I'm trying to tell people is don't get carried away. I've
No.
already been asked, the strongest level since prior to the GFC. Well, yeah, maybe technically, but not in a fundamental sense.
And we need to see how that plays out over the coming months as well, running
we've
into
got
the
the
budget
budget.
and
Yeah,
all of that
exactly.
coming up. Okay, well, thanks for joining us today and giving us that insight. We look forward to catching up with you again to see how this trend continues.
Thanks, Cindy.
Thank you.